Going live. Going live. And we're live. We're live again. Yet again. Give it a minute. Let some people start swinging through here. I should have moved this prior because I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Sunday as per usual. As per usual. Give it a little bit here. Let's let some peeps jump in. Party get going. As per the every other Sunday live streams, which I enjoy doing. It's one of my favorite things to do is these every other week live stream things. What's up, bro? What's going on, my dude? Hope you're having a good Sunday, my man. Got a lot of stuff going on with the BRZ hanging out in the garage. It is broken yet again. Well, it's not broken yet again, but the BRZ is broken, so that's fun. What's going on, Jeremy? How you doing, my dude? Hope you're having a good Sunday as well. What is going on, everyone? Everyone's swinging in now. So a lot of good stuff going on with the BRZ. Kind of want to give some updates in here after a couple more people jump in. We'll start swinging through that stuff. What is going on, Brandon? Hope you're having a good day as well, my dude. Turn this ring light up a little bit. Let's get this angles. Eric D, what is up, my dude? So got some of the wheels in I got 2 of the 4 wheels in for the BRZ yesterday, which was a little bit annoying because they all shipped together, but somehow they all got separated in transit. So I have no idea where the other 2 wheels are for the car, but I have 2 of them right now. Tires just got mounted on them. I'm picking them up after this and going to start getting everything test fitted up on the car. What is going on, everyone? We'll start swinging through some questions here in a minute. No Leavenworth cruise, not for me. I got some stuff going on that I got to knock out today regarding the BRZ plus Leavenworth as a mob. I didn't even know about it till last night, so I didn't really plan for it. So no Leavenworth cruise for me. But pick up the wheels for the BRZ. Well, 2 of the 4 wheels for the BRZ after this. Turbo kit is being made right now by MA Performance, so I'm super stoked to get that in. They said the lead time on the turbo setup is going to be like 2 to 4 weeks, but it will be good. And I thought the kit was going to come with everything for the BRZ, just a turbo. It turns out it doesn't, so I ended up having to spend like extra money on stuff, and it's so much more expensive to turbo an NA car than what I had originally sought out and planned for. But everything has been ordered for the car, so I cannot wait to start getting it all in and start actually modifying the BRZ to get it to the point where it can accept boost. I've already got the tuner picked out. I've already talked to the tuner, got the ECU setup going on with the BRZ as well. So that way, once we get all the parts in, we can plug in this new ECU setup and get it going. But I'm excited to get that turbo on the car. I'm going to be going over doing like a detailed BRZ video in the next couple days or so, detailing out like all the parts that I'm going to be using, how much power we're going to be expecting, and all the nitty gritty stuff. We'll do a cost video on the BRZ of how much it cost me to turbo the BRZ as well in here in a couple weeks after we start getting a lot of the parts on, but it'll be fun. So let's start swinging through some of the questions that I see popping up in here. And then as more come up, I'll start to go over some more of the BRZ stuff with you guys because I'm stoked for it. But hey, I blow my 2013 WRX motor full stage 3. I just got a 2016 STI. I just want to do basic mods for daily. What do you recommend? For basic mods as a daily, air oil separator is obviously going to be number one, always go to. Get a larger radiator, especially sitting in traffic, being able to have better cooling efficiency when you're sitting in traffic. That larger radiator will definitely help to do that. Cylinder 4 cooling mod will also definitely help. Those are some of the cheaper ones. If you can afford it and later on down the road you want a little bit more power, equal length headers are a good way to reduce cylinder 4 temps, so that way you're not cooking those ringlins because no one wants to blow a ringland in their car. But a couple of easy ones just to get going on there. Like I said, AOS, radiator, cylinder 4 cooling mod will all definitely help with daily driving aspects of the car. But it'll be fun. It'll be worth it. Sorry to hear about the 2013, but congrats on the 2016. Those are fun cars. What else we got? We thought it was next week, so also poor planning. Oh, no worries. No worries. Every other week. I didn't do one last week, so we're doing one this week. But they all go get posted on the channel, so that way if anyone doesn't swing through the live streams, they can at least recap through the videos if they would like to. What up, Tanner? What up, Chris? How you doing, my dude? Better see some fat skids when it's done. The BRZ will be doing some fat skids when it's done. Don't even worry about that. I want to take the BRZ down to, there's a drift track about 2 hours away that would be fun to go play with the BRZ. Like, by no means am I a drifty boy. I am awful at drifting, but I can definitely play with the car a little bit to be able to make some make some smoke, play with the car. It'll be fun. But the BRZ will definitely be more than capable of breaking traction and being able to actually play with the car. The tires that just went on the BRZ are the old STI's tires. So the 255/40s are what's going on the rear of the BRZ. I have a different tire size going up in the front of it, but it's going to be a fun car when it's done. When it is done, I'm expecting the BRZ to be faster than the STI is after it's turbocharged, just based off power to weight ratio. Like, it won't make as much power or torque, but it will definitely have a better power to weight ratio than the STI does. So it'll definitely be more fun to drive, I think, but I don't know. I don't know quite yet. It's currently broken, waiting for parts to show up. Like, I can't even drive the car right now. It's kind of annoying, but we'll get into that in here in a little bit. Wheel recommendations for an 07 STI. That's fully going to depend on your budget. When I was shopping for wheels for the BRZ, I was trying to keep it under a price point of like $1,200 or so, which I found a set that are generally my go-to wheels in that budget range. But some like good budget daily driver wheels that I see a lot of, RPF ones, they on anything. They're cheap, they're strong. You can beat on them. Same with NTO3s. You can pick up a used set. I've seen some D9Rs or XD9s go for a little bit cheaper, but they do need a little bit of love when it comes to refinishing those wheels at times. What else? The 07 STI BBS wheels, honestly, I like those ones. I kept mine on my old one for a long time. Another cheap, good wheel that you could snag is the 08 to 10. Was it 08 to 10? I think it's 08 to 10 GR BBS STI wheels. Another one of my favorites. They're strong wheels. They're light. They hold up. But there's a lot of options out there. Just depends on the fitment you want, the amount of money you want to spend. Are you buying tires with them? Are you reusing tires? There's a lot that goes into it. But those are some of my like go-to wheels whenever it comes to like cheap budget wheels that I like. Yo, what's going on? I don't even know how to pronounce that. But what is going on? Dichu? I think that's how you pronounce that one. Rotated turbo or stock place turbo. There's pros and cons to each of them. I decided to stay stock location based off of cost. It is cheaper to stay stock location for a little while. Unless you're shooting for like high horsepower, then you're going to want to go rotated. But there are a lot of turbos out there that are capable of making high horsepower in stock location. What was it? I think it's the Zona XR turbo or something like that. It's a stock location turbo. It's good for like 700 wheel horsepower. Personally, though, I would prefer rotated because it's a little more accessible to get to everything turbo-wise up in the back corner of the engine bay rather than stock placement. You can do a lot more sizing. You can clock your turbos a little bit differently depending on the need for them in that rotated configuration. But there's nothing wrong with stock location. I stayed stock location. I'm happy with it. You have much less length for the exhaust gases to have to travel to spin that turbine housing on the backside of the turbo, or you know what I mean. But it depends on what you want, how much power you want to make. Generally, if you're shooting for below 500, I would say stay stock location. If you're going for 500 and above, at that point, I would say swap over to rotated. So the next iteration on the STI will actually be rotated because we're going to be going for 600 wheel horsepower on the STI later down the road. And just that OE location for that turbo, I mean, it works, but it's just not the most efficient way of doing it. What up, Roy? Hope you're doing good, my dude. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I keep having random feedback knock, but no dam drop and no fine knock learn. Should I be concerned? I wouldn't be concerned. Generally, the knock sensor, bless you, I heard you sneeze. Generally, the knock sensor is going to pick up on any and everything that it can. Bumps in the road, loose heat shields, anything tapping against it, it'll pick up on everything. So just because you're getting some feedback knock doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. It could be false knock. It could be ghost knock. If it is real knock, though, you'd be able to hear it too. It would be audible. But if you're not getting any dam dropping or any fine knock learn coming up, I would tend to lean towards the side of it being ghost knock or just false knock from other loose items in the engine bay, potentially maybe bumps in the road. The knock sensor's picking up on something else, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if you're picking up just knock and no fine knock learn or dam dropping. What is going on, DJ? Hope you're doing good. Send the STI, LOL, JK. I'm just low-key, honestly, I'm starting to get a little bored of the STI. Power-wise, I'm already used to the power that the car makes, and I've been considering trying to bump up power on a more reasonable time frame than what I was originally planning. So that might be coming to the channel soon too. Like, I was driving it this morning to go drop off the wheels for the BRZ, and just It's just so like you go through all this work, you spend all this money to make X amount of horsepower, and then you just get used to it like 2-3 weeks later. It's awful. It's awful. I mean, I could put the car back on pump gas and then get used to like the old power, go back to 85 if I wanted to, but I don't know. I kind of want the STI to make more power now. Thoughts on AEM or DW fuel pump for flex fuel? Just saying your vid about the dead DW pump. There's some mixed reviews. So that fuel pump video that I made, that DW pump that was in Matt's car, that was hardwired to the car, so it was running at 100% 100% duty cycle its entire life, and it lasted 25,000 miles. It's about expected for a pump that's hardwired like that. It wasn't the iWire kit, so it didn't regulate voltage going to the fuel pump. It was just 100% all the time, and it lasted a good amount of time. I run a DW pump in the STI. I'll be running a DW pump in the BRZ as well, but specifically for ethanol, since that's what we're talking about, I've had zero issues with my DW pump on the STI, and I've only kept ethanol in the car for it. But time wise, I mean, I'm not going to know for a while, but I've never had any issues personally with DW pumps. And Matt's pump was intermittent. It was working at times. It wasn't working at other times. The AEM pumps are good pumps that a lot of people use. There's nothing wrong with the AEM pumps, but any small, compact, high flow fuel pump, you're going to have issues with it long term, especially if you're running it at higher duty cycles. When it comes to fuel pump duty cycle, you have it in 3 iterations. You have 33%, 66%, 100%. So when you're running it at those higher duty cycles, those smaller, compact, high-flow fuel pumps will tend to die a lot sooner. If you want like reliable fuel flow long-term, I would suggest using a dual fuel pump setup in the fuel tank. Radium is the only one that comes to mind that actually makes one. They're stupid expensive, though. Keep that in mind. But personally, like I said, I've never had an issue with any of my DW pumps. I've ran them for years. I've never had one fail or crap out on me. Just something to keep in mind, though. But for reliable fuel flow, long-term, a dual fuel pump setup, like using 2 Walbros or 2 AEMs or 2 DWs in there would be beneficial. You can use smaller pumps that will flow lower capacities, but since they're working together, you're still going to get that fuel flow you need. So that way the duty cycle of the pump isn't working at 66 or 100% all of the time. What are my thoughts on the S209? It's a good question. I like the S209. I think the S209 is a really cool car. If I had an extra $60,000, $70,000 laying around, yeah, I'd probably buy one. But it's not a car that you really want to modify because they're in such, like, it's a collector's car, essentially. Like, I'm not one to buy a car to just let it sit, to not drive it, to not modify it. That's just not me. That's not what I do. Whenever I buy a car, I want to just go balls to the wall. I want to modify the hell out of it. I want to do whatever I want to do to the car. So if I'm buying an S209, I'm already spending $30,000 to $40,000 more than a base or limited STI, and using that extra 30 to 40K in a base or limited STI, you can make a car that is far superior to the S209. So S209, really cool car. If I just happen to one day have an extra like 50 to 70K laying around, yeah, I'd probably get one as a collector's car and just drive it around. Normally, it would probably be a daily driver. But modifying wise, I'd prefer to have a limited or a base STI rather than the S209, just because I know myself. I'm going to avoid the warranty the day I get it. I'm going to put more money into the car than what it's worth, and it's just not practical or feasible. But then again, I say practical, and I've dumped way too much money into my cars already. But hey, it's all for the journey, and I enjoy doing it. But S209, cool car. Probably wouldn't buy one to modify, though. What's going on? 9th Level Entertainment. Hope you're doing good, dude. What other questions we got in here? Joe, hey, man, I commented a couple weeks ago about an AOS problem and found out I broke a ringland at 12,000 miles on an 18 STI. Going built block now with open deck. Wish me luck. I am sorry to hear, my dude. Sometimes, so I've talked to multiple tuners about this, and like I've come to the conclusion that when it comes to the older EJ engines and some of the newer ones, it's like luck of the draw with what you get out of the car. It's like I have the popsicle stick engine. I don't have the Type R engine, and it's like you pull a stick and that's your engine. If you get the short stick, your engine's gonna blow. If you get the long stick, you're fine. But it's just random draw with some of these EJ engines that I've noticed throughout the years. Luckily, I've been able to draw some pretty good sticks when it came to some of my old cars. I've only had one of them that ever blew a ringland. That was my 07 STI. It was right when I started college, so I couldn't afford to build a car. I couldn't afford to keep it. So that's when I ended up selling my 07 STI. Well, I traded in my 07 STI. The car went to auction, went to someone. Have no idea who has it now. If I could ever get that car back, though, I would 100%, because that was my unicorn. My '07 UGM STI, I miss that thing like none other. But that's when I ended up getting my first FA20 WRX. Had the car for about 6 months before I traded it back in for another. Actually, I traded that car in for a BRZ, weirdly enough. But hope the rebuild goes well, my dude. Hope that your power goals, whatever you're shooting for, are met when the rebuild is done. I know the stress of rebuilding an engine and going through the process of getting it all put back together. It's fun, but it's also terrifying. Looks like I'm going to have to change my rotors soon. Do you have any preferences? When it comes to brakes, I don't like to go over the top of the brakes. Like, there are certain parts that I will go all out on. I'll spend the extra money on. But when it comes to like rotors, I generally tend to stick with Stop Tech because they work really good. They have a decent lifespan and they're pretty affordable. Like, you could do brake pads, rotors, stainless steel brake lines, and a brake fluid flush on an STI or a WRX with using slotted rotors, Hawk pads, or a ceramic pad, stainless steel brake lines, that fluid like I was talking about, for about $500. And that's actually not bad. That's about what, like $125 a corner. So generally when it comes to brakes, I stick with Stop Tech rotors. I always get the slotted ones. I don't like drilled rotors because over time you start to get the cracking out of the drill marks going through the rotors, and then you have to swap out the rotor sooner. You could try to get them resurfaced if it's just a surface crack, but rotored, Stop Tech slotted rotors are generally my go-to for those. What is going on? Hey, I have a question. Just got around to installing an oil pressure sensor and the fitting don't match. Did you come across this hiccup? Okay, so when it comes to fitting an oil pressure sensor into the block, I'm assuming you're trying to fit the pressure sensor into the block and not a sandwich plate. God, who is the company? I have a video on it way back when. I think I made it in November of 2019, going over the components you need for the oil pressure system or the oil pressure sensor setup. There is an attachment and a fitting you need because it's like 1/8 NPT to 1/8 BNPT, which is like British. It's like a British thread pitch. It's weird. I don't know why it's like that, but there's an old video that I made about the oil pressure sensor. I would swing back to that one. It should outline everything that you need to get that oil pressure sensor installed correctly, because I did run into a similar issue. The sensor wouldn't clear around a coolant nipple because I didn't want to pull the dummy plug out of the one under the alternator, so I went with the one behind the intake manifold on top of the block near the turbo area, like down near the turbo area. But there was like an extension line that had to come off. It was like a 2-foot extension line to be able to get it to clear. So swing back over to that one. That should answer your questions and help you out there, hopefully. If not, shoot me a DM and we can talk about it a little bit. Oh, also, should I drop my OTS tune from the 93 tune to the 91 tune, but keep running 93? Would this help with longevity? Not necessarily. I would just keep the 93 tune on there. If you're just match the gas that you're using with the tune. So when it comes to OTS tunes, you want to stick to the map notes to a T, to a dot. You want them to be as accurate as possible, because when it comes to an OTS tune, you're taking a tune that has been generalized for very many cars across the nation at different altitudes, different temperatures, different barometric pressure levels as well. So when it comes to those OTS tunes, keep it on the dot to the map notes as much as you can and try not to deviate. When you start to deviate away from those map notes on an OTS tune, that's when things will start to go wrong. And that's when you'll start to see increased dam or dropping dam, increased feedback knock, and all these other values that you just don't want to be seeing. So stick with the 93 on the 93 tune. Do I like any domestic cars? I do, but all the domestic cars I like are generally fairly older, 60s to 80s domestic cars. When it comes to some of the newer ones, the new Camaros, I'll give the new Camaros. The new Camaros are pretty good. I'm liking the new Camaros. The Hellcats, everyone likes Hellcats. Demons, everyone likes Demons. The newer Mustangs are starting to grow on me a little bit. The 5.0s, there's a couple of them that I really like. I probably wouldn't buy one. Generally, I don't like to just drive fast in a straight. Like, I haven't driven some of the newer age domestic cars, so I can't really say anything bad about them or how they like handle. But I prefer a car that handles very well. And generally, the Japanese and some of the European cars tend to handle better than a lot of the domestic ones, just because we're America. We like power. We like to go fast in a straight line. I like to go on curves. I like to be able to feel the car, really dig into it around just the cornering aspect, the balance, the weight of the car itself, rather than just a boo. But yes, there are domestic cars that I like. The newer Camaros are catching my eye. Some of the newer Mustangs look pretty good. I wouldn't mind having one. Also wouldn't mind having a Hellcat. Obviously, that would be fun. But when it comes to some of the older cars, the older, what are they, the 60s? Oh, what was it? 60s Mustangs. Thank you for reminding myself. Just the classics. Everyone likes the classic domestic cars. Can't go wrong with them. When is the short block coming? When the OEM short block blows up. So right now, the car's been doing fantastic. It's been running great. No dam dropping, very minimal feedback knock, very minimal fine knock learn. I've been keeping the car on ethanol for the majority of the time. I think right now it's on the lowest blend it's been at, like an E60 blend. The car has been loving it. The short block is holding up fantastic. I've been getting on the car, digging into it pretty hard sometimes. But once the factory short block goes, then we're going to be swapping over to a built short block. I will build the heads in the garage after they come back from a machine shop. We'll get the heads bolted back up to the short block and throw them back in the car. We're going to swap the fuel pump, swap the injectors, swap the turbo, and then we're going to shoot for 600 wheel horsepower on the STI when that time comes. But, I mean, I don't want to see the short block blow up, but, I mean, if it happens, we have a plan in place to get it back going on the road. OEM head gasket and timing belt. Elaborate a little bit more on that. They're not too bad to do. You're gonna have to pull the engine for the head gasket, and if you're pulling the engine out, you might as well just do the timing belt while it's out also. But as for like level of difficulty, I'm guessing that's what you're going at. It's really not too bad to do. Just make sure you take your time. Make sure you follow torque values. Make sure you follow torque specs. Make sure you follow patterns, because there is a certain order you need to take some bolts out and put them back in. Make sure you're not reusing head studs and some other components like that. But honestly, it's not too bad to do. Subaru engines are pretty much like Legos. You can pull them off, put them back on. It's easy. You can interchange them if you want to. I know before you said you wouldn't recommend the Grimspeed AOS. How about the Perrin one? I haven't seen anything bad about the Perrin AOS. I did a giveaway on the Perrin AOS a while ago, so it is a AOS that I would recommend to people. It's not going to be my first choice for AOSs that I would suggest to people. When it comes to air oil separators, my go-tos are always going to be IAG, followed by Cobb. Killer Bee's not bad. Radium's not bad. What was the other one? Perrin's not bad. Honestly, any AOS outside of Grimspeed's. Grimspeed makes really good products. I will give them that. But when it came to their air oil separator, they lacked significantly. And I would not suggest anyone use the Grimspeed air oil separator. If you go back to the video of fixing Matt's 400 wheel horsepower Outback, you'll see why. There was a puddle of oil sitting in front of the turbo inlet. And it was a decent amount of oil. We ended up pulling the turbo inlet completely off, cleaning it all out, cleaning the turbo out. It's just, it pushes oil back into the system, and it just does not do a good job of separating that oil vapor from just normal air and then doing the thing with it. But Perrin, not a bad one to throw on the car. I had similar thoughts about it. I'm leaning towards getting the 18 Type RA. Is that going to be all right to mod? The Type RAs, I say fully mod. They're pretty, like in comparison to an S209, the Type RAs are pretty cheap. I've seen some Type RAs go for about $35,000 to $40,000. I would mod a Type RA STI any day of the week. If I could get one for the right price, by all means, I would grab it. I would modify the hell out of it. One thing that I'm super jealous of that the Type RA has is that carbon fiber roof. I would love to have one. Kind of want to do one on the STI, but it's a lot of work to pull a roof and get a new one seam sealed on there and just properly welded up, and just it's a lot of work. But yes, I would fully stand behind modifying a Type RA. I would modify a Type RA if I could get one for the right price. Ugh. What else we got going on? Where did I just leave off? I lost myself. There we go. Hey, man, I'm looking into getting a newer 15 to 18. Only thing holding me back is the reliability aspects. What are your thoughts? I think that people blow the false aspect of reliability out of the water with STIs. When you modify them properly, you don't do anything stupid with the car that you shouldn't be doing with them. The cars last a very, very long time. Like, yes, there have been issues with Subaru in the past with some of their engines, and yes, they have mitigated that by doing those recalls and fixing the errors that they had wrong with the cars. But overall, STIs and WRXs are very reliable cars when cared for. It like that just goes with any engine, though. If you're not doing the proper maintenance, if you're not taking care of it, if you're not putting in the time to maintain the car, any engine is going to go. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, unless it's a 1993 Camry. Those things will run forever for some reason. But honestly, I wouldn't let that hold you back. There really is no issue with the reliability aspect of the car unless you're like doing something stupid with it. You're throwing blow-off valves on there without tunes. You're putting all these other parts on without tunes. Just make sure that you're taking care of the car properly, and it will treat you right. I promise you that. Try to find one with the lowest miles, though, because you never know what the last owner did to the car. I'm not saying buy a used or buy a brand new one, but generally whenever it comes to me buying a used STI or WRX, I try to find ones that are under 15,000 miles. That's not too much time for someone to go through prior and just do a lot of damage onto the car. But I mean, you never know with some of the used cars that you bought. Like the BRZ, I've been finding out like all these stupid things that the last owner broke on the BRZ that I'm now having to fix. Like the stupidest thing I've seen broken on that car that I've had to fix is the roof antenna, like the antenna on the roof. So if you don't know how it bolts in, it just there's like a slide bolt on the bottom of it that'll slide up into this like hollowed out nut with a locking nut on it. Don't know how this dude did it. Stripped every piece of thread off of it. So when I pulled the roof wrap off of the BRZ, I had to take it off, and now I had to buy a new roof antenna. So like I said, you never know what you get when it comes to buying a used car. You can try to mitigate all of the aspects of it that you can to try to reduce any damage that might be on the car from the previous owner, but just take your time when it comes to looking for one. Compression tests will definitely help you also, but hopefully you snag one and hopefully you find a good one out there, because I promise you there are a lot of good ones out there. Where am I now? I know an AFR gauge is a must, but why do I need a boost gauge when my access port does that? So the reason that I don't like using the access, I like the access port's boost gauge, but when you think about it, the boost is getting sent through the sensors in the engine, the map sensor, the MAF sensor, the MAF, all these other sensors. It's being relayed to the ECU, then it's being relayed to the access port. So it's not an immediate, when it comes to boost gauges, I just like having a hardwired boost gauge that I can see exactly what's going on, because that gauge is not going to lie to me if it's hooked up directly to a vacuum source. There's no like middleman, there's no ECU for it to mitigate this data or values that have to come back to it. Personally, I just like having a hardwired gauge in there that tells me the direct feedback from what the engine is actually doing versus what the access port is seeing, the ECU is seeing, the sensors seeing. Yo, what's good? What up, J-Rob? I want big brakes. And I cannot lie. But not big brake price tag. Any alternate solutions? CTSV brakes, Cadillac brakes. They're Brimbos with just a Cadillac logo on there. You can powder coat them any color you want. They're significantly cheaper. I would look into, I think Fast WRX is one website that actually carries the brackets that you need to be able to convert Cadillac brakes over to a WRX or over to a WRX, because the STI comes with Brimbos. Cadillac brake, significantly cheaper. I think they're like $150, $300 a caliper, somewhere in that price range. Don't remember off the top of my head, but much, much cheaper. Oh, here's a fun one. I like these kind of questions. What kind of camera do you do for vlogging with? I'm thinking of getting the EOS M50. That's what I started out with, but now, if I can grab this thing, this is what I use for all my videos. This is my Canon EOS R. I use a 15 to 35 lens on it. I love this thing. I started out with the Canon M50. I think it's a really good camera to start out with. The only thing I didn't like about the M50 was the lens kind of limited you on how many lenses you could get, because they have a EOS M type lens mount. Most Canon cameras use EF mounts. My RF uses RF mounts, but the M50 is a really good starter camera for both photo and video, so I would suggest it. It's what I started out with. It's pretty good in low light also, so hope you snag one. It's a fun camera to practice and learn on. It'll definitely help set you up for the future too when it comes to using bigger DSLR like this one. My FAWX is pretty much full bolt-on without E, making 3-wheel horsepower. Thinking about picking up that Killer Bee external wastegate header with tile wastegate. What do you think? Is it worth it on stock turbo? 100% worth it on stock turbo. It'll definitely help the car breathe better, especially with those external wastegates. You'll get better boost control when the tuner is pro-tuning the car. You will pick up some more horsepower just based off of running that header. I think that the FA's turbo caps out at about 18 to 19 pounds. I would assume on pump gas, you could probably get up to 310, 315 on that turbo. But at some point, you're going to have to swap out that turbo. So when the time does come to swap out that turbo, at least you already have the header and external wastegate set up on the car. So it's one less part that you have to buy later and that you'd already have installed on the car. So I would definitely suggest snagging one. What up, Walter? Good to see you, my dude. All right, DJ, what you got? Would you just keep building an engine that you know has a small issue? Where did it go? Runs fine, but has a small crack in the plug, or just save it for a long block. Thinking about doing headers, up pipe, external wastegate, catalyst. If it were me, I'd probably start saving up for a short block or a long block at that point, knowing that I'd want more power later on, knowing I'm going to push the engine harder. Having an engine that already has an issue like that, especially a crack in it, could result to bigger failures down the road. So if it were me, I would buy the short block, or I would just buy a pre-built short block. I would pull the heads off, or if you can get a secondary set of heads for a good price, use those, send them to a machine shop, have them cleaned up, do valves, valve retainers, valve springs. If you can afford it, throw some cams in there, and then just start building that one. And then when the time comes when you're ready to swap over this new long block into the car, you can just take off all of your bolt-ons, put them on this new engine, drop it in, take it to the tuner, get it tuned, make some awesome choo-choo noises, and enjoy the car. But when it comes to like a crack, whether it's small or big, I don't know. That one's on the line for me. If there's a crack in the block, even if it is just on a plug or anything like that, the thermal expansion of the engine over time is going to cause the crack to get larger. It's going to cause that area of the block to get weaker. So I would just prepare for the worst when it came to something like that. Henry, what is going on? Nice. I had bad luck on my 13K miles, 19 STI. I was starting to get bad knock. Ringland failure was starting to happen. I'm getting an out front V3 closed deck. Jealous. I want a closed deck, but sorry to hear about that, man. At least you got the silver lining of a closed deck coming in, and that thing will be able to hold a decent amount of power for all of your future endeavors of all the parts that you want to be throwing onto the car. I've been contemplating purchasing an access port for a couple of weeks now, but I'm thinking of doing a Pro Tune in the distant future. Would you say it's worth it to buy? So all like 99.9% of pro tuning shops that tune Subarus use access ports to tune the car. So the access port is still needed for a pro tune. There are still some tuners that open source tune using like a Tactrix cable or some of these other methods of tuning. But when it comes to tuning, you are still going to need an access port for the tuner to be able to use and relay information through, upload, download tunes off of, do data logs. So I would highly still suggest you get an access port. It's the gateway for all modifying. Like an access port is just what opens the doors for everyone to swing in and start getting into the car. It's still required for a pro tune, depending on the shop that you're going to. But if it's a shop that you're going to that doesn't use access tuner to tune the car, then you might be able to get away without buying one. But I would still recommend getting one because it still works great as a code reader, monitoring values of the car, and just troubleshooting anything that might be going wrong with it. Also bought it from the dealer at 12K miles. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear, dude. I would go back to the dealer with that one. Speaking of roof wraps, went to wrap mine, and when I pulled it off, it wasn't going well and took the paint with it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear. That was one thing I was concerned with about the one on the BRZ yesterday when I pulled it off. So I pulled the roof wrap off the BRZ yesterday. I sat there with a heat gun and just heating up the wrap as I was pulling it off to try to mitigate any clear coat or paint coming off. I still had one very small spot on there. It's why I'm not a huge fan of wraps. Like if it's been on there for a very long time and you didn't put it on there, a previous person did, or the previous owner of the car, you don't know how they installed it. You don't know what exactly is underneath it. You don't even know if the vinyl's hiding anything. But when it comes to pulling off any type of wrap, I would highly suggest using a heat gun to heat it up as you're pulling it off, so that way the wrap does come off a lot smoother and it's not pulling any paint or clear coat up with it, especially on some of those older cars out there, because they will definitely have clear coat come with them, and it's not fun to have to try to fix. Still recommend AEM gauges then. I'm still salty with AEM, don't get me wrong. Very salty with AEM, especially for the issues that I've had with the past gauges over the past year, but I would still recommend them. They do have really good customer service when it does come to correcting any issues. I just ordered another AEM wideband and boost gauge for the BRZ, so hopefully they were able to fix their quality control issues, because the last set that I got, there was just issues and issues and issues with them. But I would still suggest AEM. They make awesome products. Hopefully they just picked up on the lack of quality control on their sensors, but they will warranty it out for you and they will give you a new one if you do have a problem. Thank you for all the info. I've been noticing some slight surface rust from when the last owner had it. Do you have any tips for fixing that? You can wet sand it if it's on paint. Well, if you have surface rust on paint, wet sand, polish, protect. That's what I would suggest. If it's on anything else, like just metal outside of that, I would wet sand, primer, and touch-up paint. If you can get touch-up paint in a spray can, I would highly suggest doing that. But surface rust is not fun to deal with. I had a little bit in the trunk of the BRZ when I went to pull it out. I just took a wire brush, cleaned it all up with the wire brush, pulled all the rust out, cleaned it all off, polished it all, and got it all back to good. So surface rust is not too bad to fix. It's pretty easy. Walter, since I'm keeping this in mind, I'm still looking for the package, dude. Like, I have gone everywhere. I stood in line at USPS for like an hour and a half yesterday trying to find this package. I went back to UPS. I will find it. I'm on a mission to find it. It will be found. So when I find it, I'll shoot you a DM and we'll continue talking about it. But I'm on a mission. It is somewhere. Just cannot find it. Ooh, what up? What up, Smee? What up, Eagle 6? Following your footsteps on the Surgeline tune. Woo! Surgeline, man, they're a good place. They're awesome. I appreciate the support, dude. Appreciate the support. The build list that I built for the STI. So for anyone that is following the build list on the STI, if you follow that like part for part, your car will be pretty much set up for 600 wheel horsepower, with the exception of the injectors, the fuel pump, and the turbo. You could swap out those three components, and you could definitely turn up boost if your block is capable of handling it. So when I made the video of how I spent it was like $13,249 like that to make 400 wheel horsepower, there was a lot of people in there that swang through. They're like, wait a minute, why did you spend so much to make this much horsepower? Like, a lot of people didn't understand the concept that the car is definitely overbuilt to make significantly more horsepower, with the exception of those three things that need to be swapped out. So if you do follow that build list on the STI, just know that you are setting yourself up in the future for a lot more power, a lot easier. But hope that the build goes well, my dude. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. What are your thoughts on the Canon R5? I want the Canon R5. It's a new one. It's the updated version of this. I want it. But I heard Canon was taking some time to like rework a couple things on it. My girlfriend works, she's like a subcontractor for Canon through Best Buy, so she gets a lot of these updates as they come out also. So if you are interested in some of those, I will definitely shoot them your way, but I want that R5 when it comes out. I was told by a few people on Facebook it's not worth upgrading to a performance clutch at my power level and to replace it with a Subaru OEM kit again. 19WRX, 315, 325 on pump gas. Thoughts? I disagree with that. I like wholeheartedly disagree with that. If you know that you're going to want to be making more power later down the road and you already have to replace a clutch, why not put a clutch in there that's going to be able to hold that power a lot easier and it's not going to like spin out and die on you? Like, an STI clutch wouldn't be bad either. Like, I'm making 401 wheel horsepower, 377 wheel torque on a stock STI clutch. Haven't had any issues with it. I don't launch the car though, so I mean, I'm not really like beaten on the clutch. But if you are pulling out that clutch, that OEM clutch to put a new one in there, I would highly suggest getting one that is capable of holding more power a lot easier, because in my eyes, it's not really worth it to go through all the work to drop the transmission, pull the half shafts out, pull the old clutch out, put the new one in, just to have to do it again later down the road when you are making more power and that clutch is no longer holding the power. So your call, your decision. I would suggest putting a stronger clutch in there because it seems kind of pointless to put in an OEM one just to have to swap it out again later on. Hope that helps, though. Thanks for the brake solutions. Never had even thought of the CTS brakes being an easy swap solution. I'll look it up now. Awesome. Yeah, dude. A lot of people do the Cadillac brake conversion. A lot of people will buy the Cadillac brakes, powder coat them to whatever color they want, throw them on the car, use the adapter brackets. There's a couple shims that you need, but it's significantly cheaper than going with like OEM Brembos, Willwood, AP Racing, some of those other brake setups. So relieved that you didn't actually delete the hood scoop. Yeah, so when it came to that hood scoop block off plate video, I don't know why I kept calling it a hood scoop delete. Like, in my mind, I'm like deleting the hood scoop because no more air is going through there. But in all actuality, it's just a block off plate. It's been doing wonders, actually. It's been holding up fantastic. IATs have been looking wonderful in the car as well. I haven't really been monitoring coolant temps like a couple people suggested. I do have it up on the access port. I just haven't been paying attention to that one. What up, Logan? Glad you're enjoying the stream. Glad you were able to swing through, my man. Martin, thank you, dude. I hope you're doing well as what. I hope you're doing well as well. I hope you're doing good, dude. Hope you're doing good. Carl, what up? FPXR Blue on Flex Fuel coming soon. Shooting for 10s in the 2019 STI. Woo, you got that Type RA short block too, so you can push that thing a lot farther than I did. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you make it into the 10s on that. I am curious to see and curious to know. If you do, make a video on it too, because I like watching videos. Also, a lot of you guys, I'm gonna deviate for a minute because a lot of you guys make YouTube videos also. You guys send me links to some of your guys' videos. Like, I want you guys to know I take the time and I watch these videos that you guys make and send to me. They're pretty cool. I like watching them. I think it's really cool to see you guys making videos also. So, I mean, keep it up for those of you that are. And if you have been contemplating doing it, totally do it. And if you make some, feel free to shoot me the links. I will definitely give them a watch. And I'll definitely give you some feedback if you do want it. Thanks so much for answering my questions. Also, really appreciate how responsive you are in the comments of your videos. Keep up the awesome content. Thank you. I do try my best to get back to every single comment. Sometimes YouTube Studio, the app that like gives me all the comments to go through and respond to them, it doesn't display them all sometimes. So if I did miss a comment here or there, I do deeply apologize. But I definitely spend time to make sure that I get back to everyone who I do see comment in the videos. I had a problem with my AEM wideband, and they were very helpful, and I even bought mine off eBay. Love them. Love AEM. AEM, like I said, yeah, AEM's customer service is killer when it comes to that stuff. Like, they do an awesome job of replacing any damaged products or any, like, bad sensors in the car. So AEM, I do highly suggest them. Even if you do get one with a bad sensor, they will replace it very quickly. I would suggest making sure the gauge sensor works before fully installing it, though, because you are going to have to send it back to their diagnostic team. I've made that mistake before, so test the sensor to make sure it works first. Woo! Any thoughts on the new STI with the FA24 motor? I don't want to go too much into the FA24 potential STI setup until like official specs have been released from Subaru. I think, like, just based off my head, I think that Subaru is becoming a little bit of a cop-out with this FA24 engine. They're putting it into everything, and they're not really, like, something that – all right, I'm going on a tangent now because we're doing this. The question's been brought up, so I'm getting into it. One thing I really miss about Subaru is when they were a smaller – they're not smaller. When they first brought the WRX and the STI into the United States, there was a huge deviation between the WRX and the STI. The WRX was 5x100. It had a different engine, different transmission, different body than the STI did. Like 10 years later down the road, don't get me wrong, I love the new WRX, I love the new STI, but the deviation between the two chassis is no longer, it's not a significant difference, and there's not a huge reason to buy the STI over the WRX anymore. You can get the WRX with Brimbos. You can get it with a lot of these STI add-ons. They come in 5x114 now. They come in the same body style. Like both of them is both wide body. It's not like one's narrow body, one's wide body like it used to be. Subaru's been like making me, I don't want to say like not like them, but Subaru as a company, when it comes to their car designers, needs to take a step back, look what they were doing in the earlier years of Subaru, and go back to that model, I think. I think having a greater deviation between the WRX and the STI really helps bring more value to both cars. Like, it was really cool back in the day to see people buy a WRX and retrofit a lot of these STI parts on there, whether it was knuckles, hubs, engine components, body components, interior pieces. I think it showed a lot more diversity of the cars when people took these extra steps to be able to retrofit a lot of these STI parts onto the WRXs. And I wish there was more diversity between the WRX and the STI like there used to be versus how it is now. Like, now it's just essentially seats, gauge, like the gauge cluster, the badging, and the engine. That is essentially different between the two cars. I don't know. Went on a tangent, didn't mean to, but FA24, I think Subaru is becoming a little bit of a cop-out with that FA24 engine. They're putting it in the new BRZ, they're putting it in the Ascent, they're putting it in the STI, they're putting it in the Crosstrek, they're putting it in everything. Like, don't just use one engine for everything. It doesn't give diversity to the cars. It doesn't give personality to the cars. You're just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Personally, I don't like the idea of the FA24 going in every single car the Subaru is making. A little bit of a tangent. Didn't mean to go too far off there, but let's get back into some of the questions. Yo, don't have a question. Just want to say I love your videos. I just got an 06 WRX, and I can't wait to build and follow your inspiration. Thanks for being a Pacific. Thanks from a fellow Pacific Northwesterner. Appreciate it. Glad I could help inspire. I've been seeing a lot of those comments come through recently, and it warms my heart to know that I can help people just really bring the spark back to like the WRX and the STI community, because I know like people are always going to buy the cars, but I'm glad that I can help bring that light to new members, new community members, bring people in, show them that it's not like some of the other car communities where when you come into the Subaru community, it's very welcoming. Like, yes, you're gonna have little D-bags running around from time to time, just like shitting all over people. But I don't know. I think the Subaru community is a really strong one. I think it's a really good one. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of good people in the community as well. So it's always good to see more people coming into the Subaru world. Even old people that don't even have Subarus anymore still try to help Subaru owners out in forums, comments, Facebook groups. It's awesome to see. It's just awesome. What blow-off valve or bypass valve are you currently running? I use the Cobb XLE bypass valve on the STI, and the BRZ will be running a Turbo Smart blow-off valve. So I will have one of each on both of the cars, but the STI does have the bypass valve. I bought white line LCAs for my WRX, and since they have the adjustable camber bolt, how can I do the camber adjustment myself? How would that work? So when it comes to doing alignment stuff, I will have a video on that coming this week, and I will fully show you how to adjust camber, adjust toe, adjust height, do all of these adjustments yourself. I have the white line LCAs in the garage that are going to be going on the BRZ. I have SPC toe arms coming for the BRZ as well. And I just got the coilovers installed on the BRZ 2 days ago. So when it comes to doing all of those adjustments for your suspension, I will be doing a detailed video either this week or next week showing you how to properly set that stuff. But when it comes to the camber adjustment of those LCAs, you're going to have two plates that sit on each side of the LCA with it's like a bolt that has a cut in it, and that cut is what allows you to adjust the camber. You can either adjust it in or out by turning that bolt. So you're going to want to tighten them down all the way. After they're tight, take it just a normal, I believe they're 17 millimeter bolts, throw it on there, and then you can adjust camber that way. Once it's adjusted to the setting that you want, just tighten it fully down. But like I said, I'll have a video coming up on that one here soon in the next week or so as I get those BRZ parts in to be able to get that set up. Where did I go? I installed a new Grimsby top mount intercooler. My dam went down to 0.5, then crept back up to 1.0 over a day and a half. Should I be worried with my Surgeline Pro Tune coming up on July 1st? Keep an eye on it. I would contact Surgeline, see if you can get a base map from them. They're pretty good about sending base maps when needed. I believe you just pay a deposit for the base map. That's what I did, and the base map should be a lot better for you than an OTS tune. I don't know if you're on an OTS or a base map. But just keep an eye on those values too. If you're not on a base map, get a base map. If you're on a base map, email Chris, let him know. He's pretty good about making the revisions necessary to make sure that that doesn't happen again. FA24 STI will be cool. Has new dual sport. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the STI comes out to. I'm not going to go back on my tangent about the whole Subaru STI thing. Best reliability mods for a 15 plus WRX. What up, Tom? I also see you giving you some thumbs up back. Reliability mods for WRX. There's a lot of good ones out there. I would suggest an air oil separator, larger radiator, like I said earlier, to help that cooling efficiency, especially with city driving and traffic. Having a larger radiator to be able to displace more heat and cool that coolant down just a little bit better is always beneficial. A lot of people do EGR, TGV deletes. Stay on top of maintenance as well with the WRX. Get those valves walnut blasted at least every 30,000 miles to make sure that they're looking crisp and clean, because you will start to lose performance and fuel economy with having dirty valves. So just make sure you're doing those couple things and it should be all good. I'll definitely post videos on my journey to 10s and the stock motor. Enjoy. Oh, are you one of the ones going for the 600 horsepower goal? There's like a small group of people that I saw on Facebook trying to hit 600. That's like a race to 600 wheel horsepower on the stock type RA block. I've been following that stuff. I'm a little interested to see how far they're able to push that type RA block. My popsicle stick block probably cannot be pushed much further than 401 wheel horsepower on ethanol. Then again, keep in mind it's on a Mustang dyno. If you were to convert those numbers over to like a dyno jet or something like that, it would be more in the range like 440 to like 450, 460 or somewhere in there. But dyno does play a big role in the numbers that you're actually getting from that. But please do post those videos. I do want to see that journey. DJ, what up? Got another question. Not sure if a lot of people know this for older 02 to 07 WRX, but you know anything about legacy trends to gear swaps going into the STI. I have no idea, to be honest. I've never looked into it. My roommate would know more about that, so I will definitely ask him. Since he has that Outback and that Legacy, he would know more about it. I've talked to him a little bit about doing some of those swaps, and apparently there's all like you have to swap out braces, subframes, and a couple other things. But I'll get a little I'll get a little more information from him about that. I'll shoot that over to you, and hopefully that helps. But off the top of my head, I'm just not sure. Just bought the 2020 Series White. Any recommendations on how to start modifying it? Currently, Cobb Stage 1 Plus SF. Is it a WRX or an STI? I mean, regardless, you should follow the same modification path. So I would get, since you're already stage 1, you have an intake and air box, I'm assuming, and access port. I would get an air oil separator, downpipe. If you are a WRX, if you're an STI, you're going to need to do injectors on that also. But fueling mods, if it's an STI, would kind of be where I start spending money. If it's a WRX, I would do like a J pipe, EGR, TGV deletes, intercooler. And that should, like, I don't know what your power goals are for the car, but I would kind of start doing it right there. If you're not looking for power mods, I would do some of those driver mods, such as short shifters, bushings, mounts, that kind of stuff to give you more driver feedback to how the car's performing and how you want it to perform. So that way you can identify the weak areas in the car and then kind of correct them from there. There's so many messages. Oh my goodness. What are the ID 1050 and 320 fuel pump limits on horsepower? So I pretty much run that exact setup. I was able to make 401 wheel horsepower with the ID 1050s on ethanol and the DW300C fuel pump, which is a 340 liter per hour fuel pump. Now, do keep in mind that I turned up, well, me and the tuner turned up fuel pressure in the car to emulate those 1050s being about ID 1200-ish. So you could touch 400 wheel horsepower on ID 1050s, but if you're trying to go like for 400 wheel horsepower and more, I would get ID 1300s, but the ID 1050s are pretty capable injectors. Worth buying 2015 WRX STI or going old school and getting an 07? I'm going to give you a very biased answer. I say buy the 07 WRX STI because I think that the two greatest years that Subaru ever made STIs was 2005 and 2007. I personally like the GD chassis a lot more. So biased answer, get the 07. Where'd I go? 19 WRX making 315, 325 from an intercooler, worth the money or going bigger top mount? I'm always going to say from an intercooler over top mount intercooler, even if it's on the newer WRXs. Yes, your turbo is in a different location than the STI is, but you will still have a radiant heat soak from the top of the block going up in the intercooler. Now you can mitigate that by using that gold reflective tape, heat like control devices in there, but with a front mount intercooler, you are going to be seeing a lot lower IAT temps with better ambient air flowing through that intercooler. Now, if you are going to be doing that, I do suggest doing that hood scoop block off plate like I just did. It'll definitely help flow more air through the intercooler, but I would suggest swapping over to a front mount. It also gives you more room to grow in the future, and the turbo lag that people say is there really is not that noticeable. If I'm going to be honest, it's not noticeable at all. Even when I was on my stock turbo, didn't really notice it. And I have much longer charge piping than a WRX would. That I do. Front mount all the way. The community is so welcoming. That it is. That it is. How much power can the stock FA20 reliably hold? I've seen FA20s blow up at like 280 wheel horsepower. I've seen FA20s hold 500 wheel horsepower on the stock block. Reliable, safe range, I'm going to say 350 to 380 is going to be a good, like, safe, reliable range on the FA20. Like I said, though, it's going to widely depend on tuner mods done to the car, all the other stuff going into it. But 350 to 380 should get you in a good fun spot that's fun to drive, reliable to drive also, and give you a good, like, kick in the pants when you get on it. The early Subarus between the STI and WRX are both EJ motors. It's okay. Just admit that you like the EJ better than the FA. I don't necessarily like I love the EJ. Don't get me wrong, but I like the FA20 motor. I think the FA20 motor is more efficient. I think the FA20 motor is capable of making more horsepower, But the thing that I don't like about the FA20 is that it is solely direct injection. So when it comes to like the BRZ FRS, it's direct injection and port injection. If I could have port injection on a WRX, which I know people convert them over and you can do it, you're getting the added benefit of cleaning the valves. So that way you're not having to pull the intake manifold off. You're not having to walnut blast valves all the time. You're not getting a whole bunch of carbon buildup in the engine. But I do think that the FA20 is a more capable engine than the EJ is, just because it's a much newer engine. It's got revised internals. It's got a revised fuel system. The entire engine is just revised. I like the FA20. I just don't like how Subaru is like combining the WRX and the STI into one platform. I came across an article not too long ago, and I know Subaru of America, they've been talking about like getting rid of the STI and the WRX for a little while, just because they don't necessarily like the culture of people modifying their cars from what I saw. Because you get the people that go in, they modify their car, it breaks, they take it back to the dealership. They're like, hey, warranty my car. This broke. They think that pulling parts off the car isn't going to be a dead giveaway. Like as soon as you go to modify a car and you flash any type of tune on the car, it's there. They can see it forever. Like there's a small black box in there, like on an airplane. When you overwrite the ECU, it saves the data, and it saves like a timestamp and a date of when you overwrote the ECU. So I know Subaru is getting a little frustrated with the WX and the STI platforms. I don't want them to pull the car. That's the last thing that I want. I just want them to create a little more diversity in there. And I'm tangent again. I like the FA series engines. Okay. I like them. What coilovers would you suggest for an STI? Fortunato 500, 100% all the way. I would not buy another brand of coilovers. You're going to be seeing another coilover video coming up on the channel here in the next couple of days of the BRZ. Actually, it's tomorrow's video. I did not get, I tried a different brand coilovers. I tried Yellow Speed Racing coilovers on the BRZ, but you guys can see like my full initial like thoughts on it. But I would highly suggest Fortunato 500s. Cannot go wrong with them. Is it safe to put a catless J pipe on my 2020 WRX? I do have the Cobb intake. I mean, it's safe to put on there. You're going to see some boost creep. If you're fine with having the boost creep, just make sure you're keeping an eye on it. I would suggest running a light wastegate map if you're internally gated still, so that way you won't have the like oscillation of the boost levels. So you can run a catless J pipe. I would highly suggest being external wastegate to do so, just to help mitigate a lot of the boost creep that's going to be happening with running catless. Have you ever been a fan of the Forester XT? I have a hidden love for the 2008 Subaru Forester XT Sports Edition. I've wanted one for years. They're absolute unicorns. I cannot find one anywhere. And when I do find one, I'm going to buy it immediately if it is within a reasonable budget. Even if it is beat on a little bit. Yes, I have a hidden love for Foresters. I used to have a 2006 Forester. Unfortunately, it wasn't an XT. It was just a normal Forester. I think it was like a Forester L or something like that. It was a daily driver. It was a fun car to daily. It was spacious. I liked it. I've been hidden love for Foresters. I've been exposed. Is there a coincidence with running an external wastegate and BO? I got the external wastegate up pipe, but money return. What is BO? Like body odor? Is there a coincidence when running internal wastegate with BO? I don't know what BO is, so I can't answer that. BO. I can't think of a single acronym that comes back for BO outside of body odor. Any opinions on the 2020 CTV? CTV, that just sounds weird to me. WRX is daily. I think it's a good daily if you don't plan on modifying it. The CVTs are okay. I don't like them. I've been playing with the one in the girlfriend's block off plate. Yes, I'll swing back to that. Is that block off plate? Block off plate. Yeah, I'll swing back to that. CVT, good car for daily driving. Just don't plan on modifying it. I've been driving the girlfriend's Impreza around with the CVT. I don't like the CVT much, but it's a good daily driver if you don't plan on going like balls to the wall with it. As for a previous question, internal wastegate with the block off plate. No, you're totally fine to put that on there. When you do want to go external wastegate, you're already going to be set up. You can just pull off that block off plate and you'll be good to go. Have you ever driven on the Fortunato 510s? Are they worth it over the 500s? I have driven on the 510s. Personally, I don't think they're worth it over the 500s if you just plan on street driving or daily driving the car. Unless you're going like all out track setup, then I'd say get the 510s, but the 500s are going to be more than enough. All right. Last question. Then I got to hop off, go pick up the wheels for the BRZ from the tire shop. Are you going to do a group canyon run? And are Evos allowed? Evo owner here. Evos are 100% allowed. Anyone is allowed. You can bring any car you want. I love Evos. I almost bought an Evo 9 a couple of years ago. I secretly want an Evo also. But yes, I do plan on doing a canyon run up at the testing area where I take all of my cars to go like really push them. Probably mid-July is when we are going to be doing that one. I would like to be able to bring the BRZ up there because I really want to play with the BRZ a lot more. I think the BRZ is going to be more fun than the STI will after it's turbocharged. But yes, we will be doing one here in about mid-July or so. But I got to jump off. I got to go pick up these wheels for the BRZ. I hope everyone has an awesome rest of their Sunday. Keep an eye out for tomorrow's video, Yellow Speed Racing coilover install going in on the BRZ. Don't mind the funky fitment on the car when you see that video tomorrow, but it is what it is. But with that, I'll catch you guys later in the next one. Have a good Sunday. Don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Woo!